Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In 2014, a small independent horror film shocked audiences with one of the most disturbing concepts ever put on screen. The film was as follows. Let's dive right into the story. The film opens with a young girl named Annie, and from the very first moment something feels terribly wrong. She suddenly runs out of her house in complete panic as if she is trying to escape from something terrifying. Yet strangely, we cannot see anything chasing her. The street behind her appears completely empty, but the fear on her face tells a very different story, because she keeps looking back over her shoulder again and again as if something invisible is following her. It feels as though she is desperately trying to make sure that whatever she is running from hasn't caught up with her yet. In a rush of desperation, she reaches the parking area of her house, jumps into her car, and drives away as fast as she can. Almost like someone who is trying to put as much distance as possible between herself and an unseen danger. Even while driving, she keeps glancing nervously behind her, checking the road again and again as though she expects something horrifying to appear at any moment. Throughout the entire day, she stays away from home, wandering around in fear and confusion, clearly terrified of returning anywhere near the place she came from. As time passes, evening slowly turns into night, and we then see Annie sitting alone on a quiet beach beside the ocean. The atmosphere is heavy and depressing. She looks extremely disturbed, almost as if she has accepted that something terrible is about to happen. Sitting there in the dark, she begins to cry uncontrollably while thinking about something painful, and tears keep rolling down her face without stopping. After a moment, she reaches into her pocket, takes out her phone, and makes a call. It turns out she is calling her parents. When her mother answers the phone, Annie begins speaking to her while crying, her voice trembling with emotion, and she tells her parents that she loves them very much. She apologizes as well, saying that if she has ever caused them any pain or trouble in the past, they should please forgive her. Hearing these strange and emotional words, both her mother and father become extremely worried and ask her again and again why she is talking like this and what has happened to her, but Annie never explains anything. Instead, she quietly ends the call. The scene then cuts suddenly, and in the very next moment we return to that same lonely beach where Annie had been sitting earlier. But this time the sight is horrifying. Her lifeless body is lying there on the sand, twisted in such a disturbing way that it is immediately clear that she did not die naturally. The condition of her body shows that something brutally killed her. After this shocking opening, the story shifts to another character named Jay, played by Maika Monroe. In this scene, we see Jay spending time with her friends, enjoying a normal day when suddenly she gathers everyone's attention and happily announces that she is planning to get married. Her friends are surprised by this sudden news. Among them is her sister, along with a boy named Paul who secretly has feelings for Jay but has never had the courage to confess them. Jay is extremely excited while sharing this news with them and explains that she is going to meet the guy for the very first time today. Soon the next scene shows Jay meeting this mysterious boy and the two of them spending some time together outside. Eventually, he takes her to a cinema to watch a movie, but something about his behavior immediately feels strange. He doesn't seem relaxed or normal at all. Instead, he keeps turning around repeatedly, staring behind him as if he is searching for someone in the crowd. And the tension on his face makes it obvious that he is deeply disturbed. At one point, he even asks Jay an unusual question. He asks her whether she can see a girl standing behind him. Jay looks back several times, but she cannot see anyone unusual at all. Because of this, Jay begins to suspect that maybe the boy is under the influence of drugs or alcohol and that his mind isn't working properly. She asks him if he is all right, but deep inside she can already sense that something about him is seriously wrong. Instead of explaining anything, the boy suddenly leaves the movie theater halfway through the film and drives Jay back to her house. Then he leaves abruptly without giving any explanation. Jay finds his behavior extremely strange. Yet despite everything, she continues seeing him and keeps their relationship going. After some time passes, Jay agrees to meet him again because he keeps insisting. This time he takes her to the beach late at night. However, his attitude now seems strangely calm and gentle compared to before. The boy offers Jay something to eat, but shortly after consuming it, she suddenly loses consciousness. The scene cuts again, and when Jay finally wakes up, she finds herself in a completely deserted place, tied up and unable to move. At that moment, she realizes something horrifying. She has been kidnapped, and the person who kidnapped her is none other than the same boy she had been meeting for several days. Shocked and terrified, Jay demands to know why he has done this to her. She asks him what she ever did to deserve this and whether he plans to kill her, desperately trying to save herself. She even tells him that if he wants money, he can take whatever he wants, but he should please let her go. But the boy calmly responds that he doesn't want money at all. According to him, the thing he needed to do has already been done, and the only reason he kidnapped her now is so that he can explain what is about to happen to her next. He tells her that if he had explained everything earlier, she never would have believed him, and would never have agreed to spend time with him in the first place. Jay asks what kind of secret could possibly be so serious that he had to kidnap her just to explain it. And at this moment, the story takes a very disturbing turn. The boy begins telling her that for many days he has been seeing a strange and terrifying presence, a dark supernatural entity that is trying to kill him. According to him, once this entity starts following someone, it does not stop until it takes their life. He explains that some time ago he met a girl who trapped him in exactly the same way he trapped Jay, by pretending to build a relationship with him. One day that girl drugged him, and in doing so she passed this terrible curse onto him. Since that day, the entity has been following him everywhere, appearing in different forms and shapes wherever he goes. Sometimes it looks like strangers, sometimes like people he recognizes, but it never stops moving toward him. He further explains that whenever someone transfers this curse to another person, the entity begins following the new victim instead. It will continue chasing them slowly and relentlessly until it finally kills them. However, if the creature succeeds in killing its current target, it doesn't disappear. Instead, it goes back to the previous person who passed the curse. Then the boy reveals something horrifying to Jay. He tells her that while she was unconscious earlier, he transferred that same curse to her. From this moment onward, everything that had been happening to him will now begin happening to her instead, and the entity will continue following her until it eventually kills her. He tells Jay that if she wants to save herself, she must pass the curse to someone else by forming a relationship with another person, just like it was passed to him and then to her. He warns her that she must never allow herself to die, because if she does, the entity will simply return to him again. While he is still explaining all of this, Jay suddenly notices something in the distance, a strange figure slowly approaching them. She tells the boy about it, and the moment he realizes what she is seeing, panic immediately takes over. Without wasting another second, he unties her, rushes her into his car, and quickly drives her back to her house before abandoning her there and speeding away in fear. Jay had been missing from home for quite a long time, and because no one knew where she had gone, her friends eventually became worried enough to report her disappearance to the police. So when she finally returns home in a distressed and exhausted condition, her friends are immediately alarmed by the way she looks and the fear that is clearly visible on her face. Soon after that, the police also arrive at the house and begin their investigation. Jay tries to explain everything that happened to her, but the story she tells is so strange and unbelievable that it becomes almost impossible for the police to reach any clear conclusion. She cannot even provide them with the real identity of the boy who kidnapped her because he never revealed his true name or personal information when he was meeting her. Even though Jay's statement does not give them much to work with, the investigators continue searching for clues, and by reviewing nearby security cameras, they eventually manage to track down images of the boy. After gathering this footage, the police reassured Jay and her friends that they will likely identify and catch him soon. However, as several days pass, Jay remains deeply traumatized by everything that happened. The fear and confusion stay with her constantly. Seeing how badly she is struggling, her friends decide to spend more time with her and try to distract her so that she can slowly recover from the shock. During this time, nothing unusual happens, and for many days Jay does not see the terrifying entity again, which briefly makes her wonder whether the nightmare might finally be over. But one day, while she is sitting in her college classroom attending a lecture, something disturbing suddenly catches her attention. Her eyes wander toward the window, and when she looks outside into the college grounds, she notices an old woman slowly walking toward the building. At first, this might seem normal, but something about the woman's movement is deeply unsettling. She is walking extremely slowly, yet her direction is unmistakably toward Jay. The moment Jay sees her, a wave of terror rushes through her body because she instantly realizes what this means. She is convinced that the old woman is not a normal person at all, but the same supernatural entity the boy warned her about. Panic takes over her mind, and she suddenly jumps up from her seat and runs out of the classroom without explaining anything to anyone. Even as she rushes through the hallways trying to escape, she keeps catching glimpses of the same old woman inside the college building, still moving slowly but steadily in her direction. Completely overwhelmed with fear, Jay runs outside and immediately calls her friends for help. When they arrive, She tells them everything that has been happening to her, including the curse, the mysterious entity, and the horrifying warning the boy gave her that night. One of her friends, Kelly, begins to believe her story after seeing how terrified she is. But Paul cannot take the idea seriously at all and initially dismisses it as something impossible, or perhaps the result of trauma and stress. Even so, because they care about Jay, they decide that they will stay with her that night to see whether there is any truth behind the things she has been saying. Later that night, all of them are lying around in the house, casually using their phones and trying to relax. For a while, everything seems perfectly normal. But suddenly, in the quiet of the night, they begin hearing strange noises inside the house. Sounds that make it seem as though someone else might be moving around somewhere in the building. Paul and the others get up and start checking the rooms and hallways to see what is going on. Meanwhile, Jay remains sitting alone in the living room. As she looks around nervously, she suddenly sees something horrifying. A strange girl slowly approaching her. The girl's appearance is unnatural and disturbing, and Jay immediately understands that this is the same evil presence she encountered before. This time, the entity has taken the form of a twisted-looking young woman whose movements are slow and unsettling. Already overwhelmed with fear, Jay begins screaming loudly and runs up the stairs as fast as she can before hiding inside her bedroom. Hearing her terrified screams, Paul and Jay's sister rush upstairs and enter the room to see what is happening. Even though they are all standing together in the same place, Jay still cannot calm down because the terrifying figure is still visible to her. She backs up against the wall, shaking and crying uncontrollably while pointing toward the doorway, but the others cannot see anything at all. Then something even more disturbing happens. The entity changes its appearance again, and this time Jay sees it standing silently behind her friends in the form of an extremely tall man. The towering figure slowly moves closer toward her, while the others remain completely unaware of its presence. Realizing that it is about to reach her, Jay suddenly makes a desperate decision. She runs toward the window of her room and jumps out without hesitation. After hitting the ground outside, she quickly rushes toward the garage, grabs her bicycle, and pedals away as fast as she can in a desperate attempt to escape with her life. A short time later, we see Jay sitting alone in a park, breathing heavily and trying to calm herself. She is still trembling with fear and is completely lost in her thoughts, wondering why that boy did this to her and how he could drag her into such a terrifying nightmare. At this point, she finally realizes that everything he told her that night was actually true. Approaching from behind, startled by the sound, she quickly turns around in fear, expecting to see the entity again. But this time it is not the creature. Instead, it turns out to be her friends and her sister who have come looking for her. Relieved to see them, Jay immediately runs toward her sister and hugs her tightly. After witnessing her panic and the state she is in, even Paul, who had previously refused to believe her, now begins to realize that something truly serious is happening to her. As they stand together discussing what to do next, Jay suddenly freezes again. Her expression fills with fear because she has noticed a young man slowly approaching them from a distance. For a moment, she becomes completely motionless, convinced that the entity has once again appeared in another form. But this time, something is different. The approaching boy is not visible only to Jay. Everyone else can see him too. This means he is not the supernatural entity after all. As he comes closer, they finally recognize him. He is Greg, Jay's neighbor and also her classmate. Greg had been noticing for quite some time that Jay seemed deeply troubled both at school and around the neighborhood. So he approaches her with genuine concern and asks what is wrong. He gently asks her whether there is anything he can do to help. At first, Jay and her friends hesitate to tell him the truth, but eventually they decide that hiding it will not solve anything, so they explain the entire situation to him. After listening carefully to everything, Greg agrees to help them. He suggests that if they want to understand what is happening and find a way out of this nightmare, they should try to locate the boy who originally passed the curse to Jay. Following his advice, they travel to the boy's house. But when they arrive there, they discover that he had already abandoned the place a long time ago. Even so, they search the entire house hoping to find some clue that might lead them to him. At first, it seems like they will find nothing at all. But eventually, they come across a photograph of the boy, and this picture allows them to identify the school he attended. Without wasting any time, they quickly get into the car and decide to go there in hopes of finding information about him. After some effort, they finally reach the school and begin gathering details from people who might know him, determined to track him down and confront him about everything that has happened. When they finally manage to track the boy down and confront him, He is clearly frightened to see them all standing there. At first, he becomes nervous and defensive, but after realizing that they are not there to harm him, he slowly agrees to talk. He leads them into a quiet garden area nearby where they can sit and discuss everything properly. Once they are seated, he begins explaining the entire nightmare again, this time in greater detail. He tells them that everything started the day he met a girl who seemed completely normal at first. She gained his trust and slowly became close to him. But one day she secretly gave him something that caused him to lose consciousness. When he woke up, his life had already changed forever because that was the moment the curse, the same supernatural presence that now follows Jay, had been transferred to him. From that day onward, he lived under constant fear. He explains that the entity never gave him a moment of peace, always appearing somewhere in the distance and slowly walking toward him. The terror of knowing that something was always coming for him destroyed his mental stability. He lost his peace of mind, his daily life collapsed, and eventually he even lost his job because he could not focus on anything except surviving. After explaining all of this, he apologizes to Jay sincerely. He tells her that he never wanted to pass this horrifying curse to another person, but he had reached a point where he felt completely trapped and saw no other way to save himself. He then repeats the same warning he gave her before. If Jay wants to survive, she will have to pass the curse to someone else in the same way, by luring someone into a relationship and transferring it to them. Once this uncomfortable meeting finally ends, Jay and her friends leave and begin driving back home. The entire ride is filled with heavy silence. No one seems able to say anything, because they are all processing the terrifying truth they have just heard. Eventually, they reach home without speaking much at all. The following day, in an attempt to lift Jay's spirits, her friends take her to a beach so that she can relax and clear her mind. While sitting together by the water, they begin discussing possible plans for how to deal with the entity and how they might escape this nightmare. However, while they are still talking, Jay suddenly notices something that instantly fills her with fear. Not far away, she sees the same supernatural presence again, this time appearing in the form of a young woman slowly approaching them. Before Jay can even react properly, the creature suddenly appears right behind her, grabs her by the hair, and violently throws her around in anger. Her friends are standing right beside her, but they cannot see the entity at all. All they can see is Jay suddenly being attacked by something invisible. Paul reacts instinctively. He grabs a chair and swings it blindly toward the direction where Jay seems to be struggling. Surprisingly, the chair actually strikes something in midair. Creature releases Jay's hair, but in response it grabs Paul and throws him violently into the water nearby. Now everyone is completely terrified. Since the others cannot see the entity, they simply follow Jay as she runs in panic. She desperately looks for somewhere to hide and finally rushes into a nearby room within the beach area, where her friends quickly follow her inside. But their relief does not last long. Moments later, the entity arrives outside the same room and begins violently banging against the door as if trying to break its way inside. The door shakes loudly while the sound of cracking wood fills the air. Jay, completely overwhelmed with fear, screams that it is coming and that it will never stop. At one point, she glances through a small piece of glass in the door and notices that the creature has changed its appearance again. Now it has taken the shape of a tall man standing outside. The others still cannot see it, but the door continues shaking as though something heavy is pushing against it from outside. Paul, who has always cared deeply for Jay, grabs another chair and throws it toward the door in desperation. Once again, the chair collides with something invisible, almost like it has struck a wall. Seeing this strange reaction finally convinces everyone that Jay has been telling the truth all along. Whatever is chasing her is real. After some time passes, they suddenly hear a voice calling to them from a small opening near the lower part of the room. A boy is outside telling them that it is safe and that they can come out. The boy turns out to be Greg, Jay's neighbor. Greg assures them that there is nothing outside anymore and encourages them to leave the room. Trusting his words, they begin moving toward the exit. But just as they are about to leave, something horrifying happened. The boy outside suddenly begins transforming into a grotesque and disturbing figure. It rapidly pushes itself through the opening in an attempt to enter the room. Realizing the danger, Jay immediately opens the main door and runs away as fast as she can. Everyone is terrified, but Jay is the most frightened of all because she is the only one who can actually see the creature. She runs toward her car and quickly drives away, trying desperately to escape. Her friends shout after her and call her name, but she is far too disturbed to listen to anyone. Now Jay's mind is so overwhelmed with fear, so she begins driving recklessly. Eventually, she loses control of the car and crashes into a cornfield. The front of the vehicle is destroyed, the windows shatter, and Jay loses consciousness. Her friends arrive shortly afterward and rush her to a hospital where doctors treat her injuries. After several days, she physically recovers, but the fear inside her mind remains just as strong as before. During this time, Jay keeps thinking about what the boy told her earlier, that the curse works like a chain, passing from one person to another, and that no one can escape it forever. Eventually, she returns home, but her life is no longer normal. She constantly watches every direction around her, checking streets, windows, and doorways in case the entity appears again. She cannot sleep at night, and her friends stay close to support her. Greg in particular tries to comfort her and assures her that everything will eventually be okay. The next morning when she wakes up, she finds herself near a beach where several men are fishing. For a brief moment, a dark idea crosses her mind. She could transfer the curse to one of them and save herself, but then a guilt stops her. Unable to do it, she simply sits in her car and cries before driving back home. After returning, Jay locks herself inside a room and decides that she will not open the door for anyone. Her friends come to check on her every day, but she refuses to let anyone inside. Days pass in this lonely isolation until one day she begins to feel completely overwhelmed by the silence and the weight of her thoughts. That is when her friend Paul comes to see her. After trying for a long time, he finally manages to convince her to open the door. For the first time in many days, they sit together and talk quietly. Jay gathers the courage to tell Paul that she would rather take her own life than continue living with such life. Paul, who has secretly cared about Jay for a very long time, is deeply hurt to see her in this condition. Instead of letting her fall deeper into despair, he comforts her and tells her not to lose hope. He even offers to take the curse onto himself by allowing her to transfer the entity to him. But Jay refuses immediately and says that the thought of losing Paul is unbearable to her. She cannot allow another person she cares about to suffer because of this curse. Now only a small group of friends begin discussing a different approach. Instead of constantly running away from the entity, they realize they must try to destroy it somehow. If they keep running forever, the creature will simply keep following them forever as well. Eventually, they come up with a dangerous plan. They decide to lure the entity into an abandoned school building where there is an old and empty swimming pool located in a secluded area. Their idea is to trap the creature inside the pool and attempt to destroy it using electricity. To prepare for this plan, they gather various electrical appliances such as toasters, hair dryers, lamps, and other devices. They connect them all with long wires so that when the appliances are thrown into the water, they can create a powerful electric shock throughout the pool. The plan is simple but extremely risky. Jay will stand in the middle of the pool because the entity always follows its target directly. When the creature enters the water to reach her, she will quickly climb out, and the others will activate the electrical devices to send a massive current through the pool. Late that night, they arrive at the abandoned building. The atmosphere is dark and eerie. Wind moves through the empty halls, and everything about the place feels unsettling. Jay slowly steps into the pool and waits. For a while, nothing happens. Then, in the distance, the entity finally appears. At first, it looks like a very old woman slowly approaching them. As it continues moving closer, its appearance begins to change again and again. Jay's heart races as she watches it approach. With fear in her voice, she shouts to the others that it is coming. Soon the creature reaches the edge of the pool. Something unexpected happens. It seems as if the entity somehow understands their plan. Instead of stepping directly into the water, it begins picking up the electrical devices they had prepared and throwing them into the pool itself. Paul tries to shoot in the direction where he believes the entity is standing. Unfortunately, his shots miss because he cannot determine its exact position. At that moment, Jay's sister suddenly gets an idea. She grabs a piece of cloth and throws it toward the space where she thinks the creature might be standing. The cloth lands perfectly over the invisible figure, revealing its outline for a brief moment. Now they can finally see where it is. Paul runs forward and fires his gun directly toward the shape beneath the cloth. The bullet hits, and they see the cloth-covered body collapse into the pool. Immediately, the water begins turning red with blood. Seeing this, Jay quickly climbs out of the pool, but the nightmare is not over yet. The entity is still alive. Slowly, it rises again and begins moving toward Jay. This time, it changes its appearance into something deeply personal and disturbing. It takes the form of Jay's deceased father. The sight completely shatters her emotionally. Through tears, she cries out that it looks like her father and that she cannot bear to watch it. Despite this emotional manipulation, The creature continues moving closer, trying to reach her. Paul immediately grabs the gun again and fires several more shots. The pool water becomes even darker with blood, and for a moment it appears that the creature may finally be dead. Without wasting any time, Paul and the others quickly throw all the remaining electrical devices into the pool and activate the power. A loud surge of electricity fills the air. Sparks flash across the water, and the sound of powerful currents echoes through the empty building. For a moment it feels as if the entity is struggling violently beneath the water. Then suddenly everything becomes still. Silence spreads across the room. Finally, the story reaches its last scene. Jay and Paul are walking together down a quiet street while holding hands. They appear calm, almost happy, as if they are finally beginning to live a normal life again. But then the camera slowly pulls back, and in the distance a figure can be seen walking behind them. The person is moving very slowly in their direction. The film never gives a clear answer that who he is, and the story ends.